All right, we're back at it with Ali from Doc Sites. Ali, how's it going?
Hi, Michael. How's everyone doing?
Awesome, awesome. We're doing good now, man. We're excited to be talking about websites, the truth about fancy websites versus websites that actually convert. But before we get into that, fancy websites, if you had to put a description to that, what does that look like?
That's a subjective word. Some people hate that. Some people love that. As a web company, we don't really like that word because it's too subjective. So by fancy, we're talking about sites that are beyond what a dental website should be. Let's say the doctor that comes to me and says, I want the Ferrari of websites. We're not a good fit. Typically, that guy might be a Beverly Hills, plastic surgeon type of office, or that's the world we used to come from. And we realized that with dentistry, if you package the best things that the patient wants to see, the doctor, the team, the reviews, the offers, the new patient info, insurance or no insurance dental plans, that's all you need. And represent that properly online, SEO it nicely, get photos and stuff from the office to reflect the practice. Of course, you can put videos on there with our sites. You don't need to pay 10K just to have a video on your homepage. You could do that with our Premiere template. So fancy is very subjective. What seems fancy could be done much more affordably. What may be quoted as 10, 20K could be very similarly done with 3K, as long as the beauty is in the eye of the beholder and the word fancy and the cookie cutter word that's thrown around with websites. These are all subjective words. When you do an assessment or you talk to a company, make sure you like their product. We always tell people, please look at our samples. Make sure you like what you see. Make sure you could vision your practice here with your content. And typically it works very well for them because at the end of the day, it's not about what I like. It's not about what the doctor likes. It's not about what Michael likes. It's about what meets your patient demographic, your prospective patient in that area. If you're in a lower income area, you don't need to have a cosmetic style site. If you're in a cosmetic area, you don't want to have a too general emergency style site. So there's a lot of things that go into a website, but it doesn't have to be fancy to meet your needs, so to speak. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money to get the job done. A Honda gets you to the same place a Ferrari gets you. Yes, you could get there faster and more stylish, but you're spending a lot more money. So you have to see if the destination was worth that money. Kind of think of it like that.
Interesting. Yeah, because I guess that kind of goes along or answers the question of like, why do some of the most, not plain, but like regular websites convert better than award-winning designs?
The word plain is subjective. Like I could show you our sites from like 2016, legacy style standard, or I'm sure you guys have seen like pro site websites from 15 years ago that still outrank all these fancy sites. The old school template website still outranks, and the guy's happy. He gets his calls. He's not just so dependent on SEO. Of course, if he took his site, made it better, and spent some money and effort, it's going to do way better, but he doesn't need to spend 10,000 more. He could probably talk to the same company he's working with and just make enhancements to make it better. He could just work on his reviews and make it better. But like you said, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Look at your demographic. I'm sure when you buy a practice or you get into a practice, you see the income levels, you get all these reports of like your target market, what's the main procedure? Are you going to focus on veneer, Invisalign, implants? Is there an elderly crowd? Dentures, all these things you have to think about and then try to target your site and your practice around those things to meet your audience. Don't do a Invisalign ad if no one in the area is ever, getting Invisalign or could afford it or does financing. Maybe start with something different. Maybe start a new patient promo, get them in the door, make them comfortable, gain that trust. The website, unfortunately, yes, it does build trust. Yes, it does help convert, but it will never be the connection that you will make with the practice once they come into your doors. Get them in and then nurture them into being the implant case for whatever, because it's hard to get the implant right out off the streets.
I like that. So then that brings me to an interesting part of this segment where we're going to give you some questions that our audience have wondered, right, and asked. So what website mistakes make patients leave before even reading a single word? So are there any like psychological triggers that cause instant bounce rates?
Kind of like what we said, sometimes your website might be too fancy for the area you're in, giving the misconception of this office is too expensive. I can't afford it. Bye. I'm going to go to the next guy that might have a new patient offer front and center versus glamour shots of the doctor, in his nice scrubs on the homepage. Put your offer there, put a phone number, put your reviews. Yes, show the doctor, but sometimes they get too tied up in the vanity and the pretty photos and, the photo shoot that everyone gets dressed up for. And now this whole website becomes a vanity shoot. And no, it shouldn't be that. Yes, tell the doctor's story, but beyond the bio, a photo, a video, represent the practice. The reviews are a big deal. The dental savings plan, the insurances or no insurances, special offers. These are the things that people usually look for. Yes, they look for the doctor, but if your whole site is portraits of the doctor and videos of the doctor in slow motion, I might not connect with the average Joe that just needs a dental appointment.
Got you. But sometimes, would you say those do connect with the actual
Of
demographic,
course,
right? Yeah.
they do. And you should do that. And a lot of our premier sites do that. But it depends. Not everyone fits that box, which is our point of like, don't think everyone needs that fancy website. Some people could get away with a lot more simple, clean, presentable information and things that the patient looks for. You could do the nice videos. And of course, I'm just saying when it becomes too much about the glamour and the vanity, it loses the connection with the patient. And sometimes that could turn people off. And maybe if you're in a fancy part of Beverly Hills or Florida or anywhere that might have that more vanity type of audience where it's more cosmetic, then yes, that makes more sense to do that. But I would say like it doesn't apply to most places that are general bread and butter offices that just need to show a clean practice, a good first impression. The first impression is exactly what you mentioned is like what turns people off. Your website is the first impression. So think about that. Put yourself in the shoes of a patient, or maybe ask your friend, hey, judge my website based off you being a patient looking for a dentist in the area and see what they would look for. They might say, I only care about how many reviews you have. If you're pushing Invisalign, let me see your like clear association or different, credentials you have to showcase your cosmetic work. Or more importantly, show all your before afters. So many doctors, so many practices, they get mad at the marketing company. They want Invisalign leads, they want implant cases, they want veneer cases, yet they have nothing to show. As a patient, as you, Michael, if you were to choose a dentist that highlights his work very well and one that doesn't, even if the one that doesn't outranks him by far, eventually the smart guys, they're not just going to click the first guy on Google. They're going to go through and see who they could spend a lot of money on, who's done the work, who's before afters they could see themselves in. Do they have a consult? Can they afford this? Do they have financing? All these things that your website has to answer.
Your website is beautiful, but is it bringing in new patients? See, a pretty site isn't enough. You need one that actually converts visitors into appointments, cheeks in seats. DocSites builds websites that load fast, rank high, and turns clicks into calls. And they do it for a fraction of what most charge. So you're gonna get more patients, less stress, and no overpriced contracts. Find out what your website is missing at docsites.com. That's DOCSITES.com, or go in the show notes below and click on the first link in the show notes below to go to the DocSites website. And if you mention the Dental Marketer podcast or this episode, you will get $500 off any promotion happening right now. So go to docsites.com and see what your website is missing right now. Interesting. So then one other question was, and you kind of answered it right now, but if we can dive a little bit deeper, like what elements build trust and which one makes people hesitate?
I think the hesitation comes from just outdated information, old photos, fuzziness, non-mobile, there's still doctors that we see their websites as not secure. They don't even have like a basic SSL, which is something that comes with hosting. So all the browsers that are not secure, it freaks people out. So just basic things like SSL certificates, old photos, no photos, just like pure stocks.
Yeah.
People don't like pure stock photos. Who's the doctor? I get it. Many people don't like to put themselves out there as much or do a lot of photos and videos and patient testimonials, but those things do work. Some doctors don't even like putting their photos on the website, which again, those doctors should not even think of the fancy websites because a stock fancy website is not going to do you any good. It's about what you show that reflects your practice, that makes that connection. One of the things that turn them away are those things, old, broken, bad websites. If you see an old, bad, dirty website, you're going to think the office is old, bad, and dirty, right? If you see a clean website, you're going to think the office is clean, up to date. If you see a fancy website, then that may connect with you very good for those kind of things. Or you might say, this is not the practice for me. So it's very subjective, but the things that people do look for, and anyone could answer this by looking at their Google Analytics. And over the years, if you look at, all these analytics that we've looked at, in the top 5 to 10 pages, it's always the homepage, of course, doctor's page, reviews page, team page, contact page, new patient page. No one's reading like teeth whitening and what it is. Yes, those are entry points. Those are pages that they land in, they see your beautiful work, and then they'll say, who's the doctor? How many reviews do they have? Are people happy with their Invisalign? These are the things we try to showcase on these landing pages to help convert these patients. You don't need to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to get that landing page or a funnel or all these things that you might hear from these other companies. You just need a good website, represent you properly, showcase your work, create trust, and people will call you. And don't just rely on this part. Do everything else. Do the ground, do the offline, do the ads, try the SEO, do a billboard, try it all. See what sticks.
Gotcha. Okay. So then, and I'm sure you've seen this a lot, Ali, but DIY, right? They try to do it on their own, especially at the beginning. What's the number one mistake you would say dentists make when trying to DIY their own websites?
That exact thing is DIYing their websites. But see, let's say they did it, and I get it. Sometimes it makes sense to do it because they need it for their startup, or sometimes it's just a doctor working part-time. So the biggest mistake being made is just you go to Wix or Squarespace, you find some template, you just say, these are my services, and you don't touch it for years, and you let it go. Once you set it up and it gets the job done of that initial, okay, I have a website, my domain's live, something's marinating, great. But then look back at it in 3 months after you get settled in a little bit and say, now, is it worth looking to a company? Is it worth my own time to go update this thing I did myself? Start putting some love into it. Basically, your website needs love just like everything else in your office needs love. It's just another thing you have to pay attention to. Check it every 3 months or so. See how it's going. Check in with the companies. Make sure you take advantage of the service you're paying for.
Yeah. And I think that's another arm where you guys come in really well. It's because, for example, you're starting up, you're trying to do your own website, or you have the time, right? Maybe you're like in construction mode and you're just waiting. So you do your own website on Wix or Squarespace. You give it a ton of love, and then you're starting. You're working on patients. Obviously, you're never going to give it the same amount of love you could give it from the beginning. But that's where I feel like now the next step would be to pass it on someone who I know can be proactive and consistent with the love we give it. And I think that's where you guys come in pretty well.
Yeah, exactly. And we, of course, like all we do is dental websites. So we know the game, we know the keywords, we know what patients look for. You did a great thing by starting it out. You got your domain up there, you have it marinating. Now it's time to put a better site that's optimized, that's personalized. And even if you don't want to do that, you could talk to us. We could give you info. You could apply it to your own site. And you could revisit this again. You don't have to jump from Wix to Ferrari of websites. You could transition in between. You could learn it. Not all companies you'll stay with. Maybe you'll have someone for 3 years and you'll try another company. So always keep your domain. That's where the value goes over time. Your content, your before afters, your reviews, your Google business, your Facebook. These are things you own. These are things that you have to keep building and working on. And I think just proactivity, like we said in the beginning, constant effort, good reviews, recall, referrals, online, offline, a little bit of everything, and you'll succeed. Just like our business, your business, all businesses.
Yeah, no, I love it. And don't forget, DocSites gives you a free, no strings attached assessment. Right, Ali?
Just go to docsites.com, hit contact, make sure you mention Michael and the dental marketer. You'll get a discount if you decide to move forward as well. 500 off, possibly more, depending on what we're moving forward with. But let's talk. There's no reason to go over price. You could actually go see our prices on docsites.com. So we like people getting comfortable, making sure they like the price, the product, and then you could call it. There's no pressure. There's no like bait and switch. There's no, let me find out your budget and squeeze whatever I can out of you. It's what you see is what you get. No long-term contracts, easy to work with, easy to leave if you're not happy. That's what we're trying to be known for out here. And just check us out, check our reviews, and see what others are saying about us.
Awesome. So that's going to be in the show notes below. Please, if you can, just do a free assessment. Make sure, even if you already think your website's doing fantastic and great, you could always use more love, right? He'll even let you know, hey, it's doing fantastic. Keep it going.
My love
keep it
is
rocking.
not to get you to switch to us. It's strictly to show value, give you some info you could use however you want with no strings attached. It's true love. It's unconditional. It's
Yeah, we love that. We love that. Awesome. That's going to be in the show notes below. So thank you so much for being with us, Ali, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Michael.